Good morning, all. I am Bhavya Hansi, Assistant Professor, SART, CSE Department. Today we are going to learn about CSS, which comes in INWT subject, which comes in fifth semester. Now, in this video, we are going to see about introduction of CSS, color and properties, border and boxes, margins, padding list, positioning using CSS. So first we are going to see the introduction. So what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. CSS describes how HTML elements are displayed on your screen, paper, or in other media. Style sheet is a collection of style rules that tells a browser how the various styles are to be applied in the HTML tag to present the document. This is all about, this is the basic information about CSS. Now, type of CSS. There are three types available. First is embedded. This type of CSS, in this type of CSS, style rules are included within the HTML at the top of the web page, which is in the head. Next is inline style sheet. So in this, style rule appears throughout the HTML of the web page, that is in the body. Third is linked style sheet. So this type of style sheet, style rule are stored in the separate file, or we can say that external web pages. Now, why we use CSS? So we also know that HTML was never intended to contain tags for formatting. HTML is made for describe the content of the web page. It's not made for formatting the web pages. So here we introduce CSS. Like in HTML, when we are going to see about heading, so first we have to in HTML we create heading. This is heading. This is paragraph. When tags like font and color attribute were added to the HTML 3.2, it starts a nightmare for web developer because development of large websites where font and color information were added to every single page become long and expensive. That's why CSS is created. It saves the time of web developer, and it basically saves the expense and time of your web developer and companies also. Now, basic syntax or basic structure of CSS, it has two portions. First is selector, second is declaration. When we here we are going to see that a selector tell about heading, its heading or body or para. In declaration part, you are going to see about the property and values, that value of that particular property, like color. Then value of that color is property, and value of that property is blue. Then font size and font, these all come under declaration part. Now, selector points to the HTML element you want to style. The declaration block contains one or more declarations separated by semicolons. Each declaration includes a CSS property, name, and a value separated by semicolon. A CSS declaration always ends with semicolon, and declaration blocks are surrounded by curly braces. Now, colors and properties of CSS. So when we are going to add color, so color property is used for foreground color and background underscore color property is used for background color. The color property specifies the color of the text for the HTML element. There are two ways to specify color. So in this example, we are going to see about these two ways. In this first way, body, we describe the body and color in the word, like color is red. In second way, we describe the heading and color range. This is the two types of defining colors. Now, border and boxes. By default, by default in the CSS box model, the width and height you assign to an element is applied only element's content. Border and box tells the browser to account for any border and padding in the values you specify for an element's width and height. Now, border is by default in CSS border height and width is assigned by to an element is applied to that particular element. Border box tells browser. Border box tells the browser for border and padding of that particular element's value. Now here example, we can see that the example of padding. Now example one, box size border box. Now we are going to see this. By this we are assigning padding and border of a particular element. Now here is example one. Suppose we have an example one element. So we are going to mention that box size and border of that particular box. Next, margin. Margin property sets the margin for an element and is a shorthand property for following properties: margin top, margin right, margin bottom, margin left. These all are the property of margin. Next, padding list. Padding is a property. Padding is are used to generate space around your any element's content inside of any defined border. So we can also say that inside the border, element space is generated by padding. With CSS, you have full control over the padding. There are properties for setting the padding for each side of any element: top, right, bottom, and left. CSS has properties for specifying the padding for each side of element. Padding top using these word or these elements: padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left. These all are assigned the padding of your elements. All the padding property can have following rules. So there is some rules of for padding. First is length, where you are going to specify the length of that particular element. Then percentage, here where you are going to specify the width of element. Inherit is specified that the padding should be inherited from the parent element. These are some properties of padding. Now we are going to see about positioning using CSS. Positioning property specifies the type of positioning method used for an element. There are 5 different position values. First is static, then relative, then fixed, then absolute, then sticky. Elements are then positioning using the top, bottom, left, and right properties. However, these properties will not work unless the proper position property is set first. They also work differently depending on the position value. Thank you. Stay tuned. Good day.